Chapter 38. The House is in the House. It was a fight to the death, and I felt great. Every move was perfect. Every strike was so much fun I wanted to laugh out loud. Set grew in size until he was larger than me, and his iron staff the size of a boat's mast. His face would flicker, sometimes human, sometimes the feral maw of the Set animal. We clashed sword against staff, and sparks flew. He pushed me off balance, and I smashed into one of his animal statues, which toppled to the floor and broke. I regained my balance and charged, my blade biting into a chink of Set's shoulder guard. He howled as black blood seeped from the wound. He swung his staff, and I rolled before the strike could split my head. His staff cracked the floor instead. We fought back and forth, smashing pillars and walls with chunks of the ceiling falling around us, until I realized Sadie was yelling to get my attention. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her trying to shield Zio and Amos from destruction. She'd drawn a hasty protective circle on the floor, and her shields were deflecting the falling debris. But I understood why she was worried, and much more of this, and the entire throne room would collapse, crushing all of us. I doubted it would hurt Set much. He was probably counting on that. He wanted to entomb us here. I had to get him into the open. Maybe if I gave Sadie time, she could free Dad's coffin from that throne. Then I remembered how Bast had described her fight with Apophis, grappling with the enemy for eternity. Yes, Horus agreed. I raised my fist and channeled a burst of energy towards the air vent above us, blasting it open until red light once again poured through. Then I dropped my sword and launched myself at Set. I grabbed his shoulders with my bare hands, trying to get him into a wrestler's hold. He attempted to pummel me, but his staff was useless at close range. He growled and dropped the weapon, then grabbed at my arms. He was much stronger than I was, but Horus knew some good moves. I twisted and got behind Set, my forearm slipping under his arm and grabbing his neck in a vice. We stumbled forward, almost stepping on Sadie's protective shields. Now we've got him, I thought. What do we do with him? Ironically, it was Amos who gave me the answer. I remember how he turned me into a storm, overcoming my sense of self by sheer mental force. Our minds had a brief battle, but he imposed all of his will with absolute confidence, imagining me as a storm cloud, and that's what I'd become. "You're a fruit bat," I told Set. "No!" his mind yelled, but I had surprised him. I could feel his confusion, and I used it against him. It was easy to imagine him as a bat, as I'd seen Amos become once he was possessed by Set. I pictured my enemy shrinking, growing leathery wings and an even uglier face. I shrank too, until I was a falcon with a fruit bat in my claws. No time to waste. I shot towards the air vent, wrestling with the bat as we spun in circles up the shaft, slashing and biting. Finally we burst into the open, reverting to our warrior forms on the other side of the red pyramid. I stood uneasily on the slope. My avatar shimmered with the damage along the right arm, and my own arms were cut and bleeding in the same spot. Set rose, wiping black blood from his mouth. He grinned at me, and his face flickered with the snarl of a predator. "You can die knowing you made a good effort, Horus, but it's much too late. Look." I gazed out over the cavern, and my heart crawled into my throat. The army of demons had engaged a new enemy in battle. Magicians. Dozens of them had appeared in a loose circle around the pyramid, and were fighting their way forward. The House of Life must have gathered all its available forces, but they were pathetically few against Set's legions. Each magician stood inside a moving protective circle, like a spotlight beam, wading through the enemy with staff and wand glowing. Flames, lightning, and tornadoes rippled through the demon host.